Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to the 670th edition of the Feuerstein's Fire American Soccer Show. We're not going to waste any time with the pleasantries. We're going to go ahead, but first things first, to this past weekend, to all of our military and to those that made the ultimate sacrifice. All I can say is I want to wish them a very good Veterans Day to all our American veterans. My first guest right now, a recorded interview. This is Michael Josh Guidry, a former U.S. military veteran, and he'll talk about being in the military, his time in professional soccer, indoor and outdoor, and his business. So without any further ado, the recorded interview with Michael Josh Guidry right here on the Feuerstein's Fire American Soccer Show. Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the American Soccer Show here on the Feuerstein's Fire American Soccer Show. My first guest today, joining me all the way from Texas, this is Mr. Michael Josh Guidry. If you remember him, he was the owner of Daggers Central Texas during their U.S. Open Cup qualification run, and they went on, I believe they went on to the Open Cup, but probably not. But still, though, this man, he is currently a U.S. military veteran. And of course, this past weekend, it was Veterans Day. So today on this show, we're honoring our veterans involved in soccer. Michael, thank you for your time. Welcome back to the show. First time on the StreamYard, but I want to honor you and your fellow military veterans, of course, that served this country and unfortunately made the ultimate sacrifice.
Well, good morning, Daniel. Thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
No, I'm glad to have you on. And for just everyone know what Josh was doing in the military, he joined in 1993, retired in 2021. He is a UH-60 Black Hawk helicopter pilot. He also played for both the all-military and U.S. Armed Forces teams. He also head coached the men's all-Army soccer and assistant for the U.S. Armed Forces national team. He's played overseas in Japan and South Korea lower divisions, as well as the Indoor League, MASL1 Pro Arena, and the USA League. Really amazing credentials with you, Michael, that you've done all of this. But first things first, fighting for your country, what's that honor like to, go into the military and to just put on that uniform and be an asset, not just to our country, but for around the world to help when things do go wrong, that our armed forces are there to help our neighbors across the world?
Well, thanks, Daniel. So first off, I grew up in a military-heavy family. I was surrounded by elite servicemen my entire life in South Louisiana. My grandfather was a very senior member of the armed forces for almost 40 years. My father volunteered for Vietnam twice to be a fighter pilot, went very close to doing that, but in his youth, he had raced motorcycles, rode motorcycles, and destroyed his body. So I was kind of surrounded by that service, notably aviation, military aviation, which my father worked heavily in that field, and a lot of my relatives did. But so for me coming up, soccer was important. I was, a senior member of all the ODP type teams, if anyone's familiar with those in the 1990s, and I was a decent Division I college recruit. But aviation, notably, was a big part of my life. So when it looked like the Naval Academy and the Air Force Academy were not exactly going to happen, due to kind of average grades, my father, my grandfather, all of them suggested, regardless of my soccer credentials, which weren't as important as getting in the cockpit, to enlist. And, a lot of people get to the academies that way. So for me, I tested very well, got a very awesome job when I joined the U.S. Air Force in '93. I was an intelligence operator, went to school for nearly 2 years for that. The cool thing for me was being around elite professionals. That was the sense of professionalism that I had got from my parents, all the service members I had. This wasn't just, not to sound, cynical, but this wasn't some dopey draftee type situation. This was the all military, all volunteer force of the Clinton era, which was having drawdowns. So you had to be sharp, to exist in that format, kind of transitioning out of the Cold War into, the new conflicts. So I was kind of a rarity in the Air Force. I was very physical, being a former elite athlete. So I was able to kind of work my way into joint special operations work, and oddly found myself around the Army and Army special operations and things like that, Marines, Navy, almost as much as I was in the Air Force. So,
Now,
so when I made the decision to cross over to the Army from the Air Force to be a helicopter pilot, it was a pretty easy decision. I was very familiar with the Army's way of doing things, kind of having been in that joint environment. And once again, I'll reinforce professionalism. I became a warrant officer. If anybody's familiar with warrant officers in the U.S. military, they are the elite technical professionals in the military, basically an unquestioned rare group of technical professionals. So just once again, professionalism, elite, adherence to your craft stuck with me during my time in the military. So whenever the conflict started, and I'm not trying to sound, once again, cynical, but I was part of an enterprise that was kind of chasing, the dangers before 9/11. So when 9/11 happened, when I was in officer candidate school, warrant officer candidate school, I'm sorry, I wasn't terribly surprised, by certain things. I know 9/11 was a transformative experience for a lot of people, but I had been in the military for almost 8 years when 9/11 happened. I was a sergeant at that point and an officer candidate. So the war on terror was just kind of clicked off. What I wouldn't say destined to be, but you raise your hand to be a helicopter pilot in the U.S. Army, you're going to war, and you're there to help the guys on the ground, help decision makers, commanders, and being a UH-60 pilot, Blackhawks, if you're familiar, that is a very versatile platform. So versatility was kind of the key. So I did a number of jobs, and really stayed incredibly busy until my retirement in 2021. So for me, I do miss it terribly, but I had to leave sometime after 28 years. And little things helped me along the way. Obviously, friendships. Soccer was a huge part of that because I somehow was able to balance a semi-professional and professional career in little bursts while my active duty career was going, which is rare. And then got the opportunity to play for the U.S. Armed Forces team, military teams, and then coach at that level, which, was very professional. And then lastly, Daniel, I have to say, you have to have a sense of humor when you serve. Some of it comes out as sometimes a bit dark humor that people aren't exactly ready for your sense of humor. You can make light of things in some of the darkest situations. But for me, enjoying yourself and having a sense of humor and levity and enjoying yourself during all that service, or if not, I hate to say, the toil, the deployments, the separations. I've had some tough marriages and stuff in those. Honestly, in those situations, you have to keep your head up, or it will really bring you down. But I think we're living in a world. Just to sum it up on my service, I think we're living in a world of the former global war on terrorism and transitioning into new things, where not a lot of people really understood. I'm not saying cared. Of what my generation did, being a Gen X guy, we all served, we raised our hands, we the war in Afghanistan lasted 18 plus years. That's something that eventually people will tune out. And I'm not feeling, that they're ungrateful or anything, but we stayed busy for those period. And I think that we're living in that era where, we did that job. We did an incredibly dangerous and violent job for long periods of time compared to our predecessors. And I don't sit around saying, oh, everybody owes me something or something of that nature. But what I do think is that there is this white space now that exists where people are kind of like confused on what to say or do about the global war on terror generation. There's a couple movies popping out and things like that. And all I'll say is bluntly, just ask us. Just ask us, what we did, why we did it, the kind of, operations that we did, because I think with, channels like this, other channels, I think sharing compared to the Vietnam, Korean, and World War II generation is a bit more accepted, and to say, okay, I went through this earlier rather than just kind of holding on to that and moving on. And to kind of segue to soccer, I transitioned to being a full-time soccer professional and teacher because, that was my bliss. I served for a long time and I wanted to try it, and my retirement and doing that have allowed me to do that without really worrying financially about things. So I'm very grateful for all that.
And absolutely. And then, of course, after playing, you decide to get into coaching. You got your UEFA C license as a goalkeeper coach, assisted on numerous NCAA teams in Division One and Division Three. You were also in the NPSL in the pro development head coaching position, the CPL, primary assistant in USL League Two. And you're currently doing Arena League right now, the Major Arena Soccer League. You're in the third division, it looks like, in indoor soccer, and you're with this club called the Texas Outlaws. How did that come about with the Texas Outlaws? And even before that, as I said, you were the owner at the time, Daggers Central Texas. Just talk about that first, to bring all these former military people, former military veterans, to be a part of this club, and in an amateur level, and to try to push it into the, I wouldn't say yet into the professional level, but at least somewhere in between.
Yeah, thank you. So as far as Daggers was concerned, I coached in the USL2 and the MPSL, and there was really just a gap. There was a gap on capabilities of the local MPSL team we had here in Central Texas, our local USL2 team, and I briefly coached in the USL Championship as well. They were tied together, so being part of the USL2 staff meant I was the championship staff as well. So really, I didn't want to spend the pro development money, which can be a lot. But in partnership with my wife and some local friends who were soccer experts, we threw in a team in the GCPL, which, I think matches the level of the NPSL at times, and is certainly a terrific league. Shout out to that league. And multiple teams from that have jumped to the USL2, which shows their quality. And, with that being the standard for pro development in the USA. So I saw a lot of excellent military members in the Fort Cavazos area, San Antonio, things like that, combining with a lot of great local former pros that were kind of left over from that USL Championship team in Austin that had folded. And we just threw together an amazing squad. At the same time, I was with a group that was starting an MASL 3 lower division pro arena team. Arena has been a passion of mine since I was a small boy. For those that are my age, I'm 51. Pro arena was the elite soccer in America when I was a child. There were fledgling outdoor leagues after the NASL folded, but pro arena was really the hot stuff, notably the Dallas Sidekicks, which were my first introduction to pro soccer with my dad, who would have to go to Dallas a lot, and he'd bring me, working in the helicopter industry, and we'd go to Sidekicks games. If those that remember Tattoo and a lot of those very famous arena players, that was what struck me first as elite soccer. So when I joined the military, we had the ability to throw together a lot of futsal teams, notably being in northern Japan, Korea. We had these gyms that were available to us, so futsal became a big part of my development. I even got to try out for USA Futsal a couple times when I was a pro arena player. And the pro arena team that I played with, also set the East Coast standard, for really pro arena. So arena has always been just a favorite of mine, and I've had an aptitude for it. It's not for everybody. And if you want to say, futsal basics help, I think they do tremendously in your ability to play arena, just due to close control, stopping the ball, goalkeeping which is definitely the first, arena goalkeeping kind of introduced all those futsal styles that are now prevalent in pro outdoor goalkeeping. You see a lot of K-saves, opening the body big, which when we were kids, the only guy that did that was Peter Schmeichel, who was a handball goalkeeper. So that seemed radical, but as a arena goalkeeper, I was kind of turned on to the futsal style very early. So I was teaching that, and really getting a lot of flack, honestly, for teaching, K-saves and things like that, which, now are standard if you want to be an elite goalkeeper. So, moving through Daggers really just existed in a bubble. US Open Cup is a thing that I always wanted to play in. It was the primary goal of Daggers, was to put a mostly military team in the US Open Cup, and we did it. Had a couple matches, obviously got cleaned out by a bunch of former MLS guys, which happens in the Open Cup. They fly people in for these teams, a lot like what they're doing with TST right now, just flying these ballers in for these matches. And of course, we got destroyed, especially with our top Division I college talent being back in school. But the US Open Cup was such a satisfying feeling. So to get a couple rounds in, to distinguish ourselves as a playoff competitor in the GCPL, and really be highly attracted to the NPSL and USL2 was a big deal of mine. For me, Daniel, and I'll just say this, if you want to get involved in, let's say, UPSL, any of these leagues, you absolutely need to have a home. And the hardest part for us was finding a consistent home. Policies changed on Fort Cavazos. I'm not criticizing the Garrison leadership, but my connection to the All-Army team kind of made it clear that we were going to play Daggers on post and kind of continue with that. But there were some usage agreements that, were fair choices that prevented us from playing on there. The post team has really surged. They're at the UPSL level, so I'm happy for those military players to have that opportunity. But I moved hardcore into the arena area. So having made nationals 2 years in a row with the Austin Emerald, working with that crew, we had our most successful season in pro arena last year, nearly losing in overtime to the eventual national champion RGV from Rio Grande Valley, which we all know that area produces enormous amounts of talent. And we were the leader in all national categories in the MESL3 for our team for most of the season, really competing, beating a highly competitive team in the Houston Bolt. Shout out to them, terrific club, and working our way through the season. And then my connections formally in the pro arena side and with a few player recruits got the attention of Ed Puskaric. So for those that know Ed Puskaric, he's a legend in the Dallas soccer area. And Ed, former national team player, former Dallas Burn player and leader, club owner. Ed was the former head coach of the Sidekicks, took over the Outlaws when Tattoo left as the head coach. So I was just missed my idol, with Tattoo, head coaching the Outlaws. And we had a total rebuilding season last year with the Outlaws. We went with 14 to 16 rookies, which in pro arena is holy cow, because arena is definitely an acclimation point. You have to learn pro arena. You absolutely do. We had tremendous USA futsal leaders like, David Ortiz, who was an all-star USA futsal captain, Eric Macias, guys like that, Steven Gonzalez. But we had to really surge in with a ton of rookies. So last year's campaign could have been worse. We won 5 games, but I think a lot of people predicted with all those rookies, new staff, new head coach, new president, that it would be much worse. But we really fought hard, and we're right there with a lot of the top teams in the MASL one to nearly win. I mean, just by minutes. So we're looking forward to a new season with new owners, new investment in the Dallas area. I commute from the Austin area, to Dallas to coach during that season. And used the Austin Emerald in the MASL 3 as kind of a minor league affiliate. And we got a lot of guys from the Outlaws that were new to the league, USL championship caliber players, exposure to Pro Arena. And I'll note, this one young man named Luis Chavez, who had come from Las Vegas Lights, kind of trying to earn his place in the Outlaws in the practice squad. He came down to Austin and just destroyed that league. I mean, just a couple steps down and developed rapidly. And that allowed Luis to move back to Outlaws and get a couple of starts at the end of the season in the MASL 1. So we were extremely proud of what's happened. I was very proud of the local guys in Austin. And for me, I am looking at a few things on the outdoor side, but for me, futsal and Pro Arena are really the future for me. And notably because it's so damn hot here in Texas, I like being inside. Even though I am a fitness fanatic, the heat can rip you up out here. So maybe a few less seasons outdoor out here in Texas. I'm kidding. But arena really is my focus. The MASL was a dream to coach in, got a cup of tea in the USL championship, and really being a full season MASL 1 assistant coach was just a dream. And one more add on to that. I know I've said a lot. My wife's hometown hosted the team that I was coaching in. So both she and I felt just a little cooler. And my wife is, her nickname is literally the critic. She's one of the senior project managers in the Dell sphere up here in IT. And she knows football. So to see her up in the stands, just with kind of a disapproving look every now and then, was just an extra bit that my wife could be at nearly every home match for the Outlaws this year. That was tremendous for me. And
that's
kids.
fantastic. That's fantastic to hear. And now you're in this business now. You are the founder and owner. Originally was called Hero Goalkeeper, Hero GK.
Yeah.
Now you've changed it to Chaos Soccer for training in Central Texas, and you're providing pro level training and goalkeeper equipment set in a mini football environment. And before you go ahead, let's just show everyone what Chaos Soccer can do for you as a goalkeeper. If you are interested in Mr. Guidry's business, there it is right there. I have to say, awesome logo, awesome keeper gloves. Love them very much. I especially love these. I love the design on the gloves. Just go ahead and talk about your business.
Sure. So I've been a pro trainer, been a club director. Most recent director position was at Barcelona here in Austin, where I was the goalkeeper director. So I'm familiar with the youth training scene intimately. Hero GK started right before COVID as just something I wanted to do. I had the extra money. I wanted to make my own gloves. I partnered with a guy in England, this genius named Chris Annable, who lives in Nottingham, and he owns his own goalkeeper glove business called Glue Pro. So Hero GK was really heavily inspired by my time in the military. I can text you later some of the military style gloves we did for my armed forces goalkeepers. That was really the inspiration. Moving back to Austin, I found that I had a lot of collaborators, and I'm in my 50s. I'd like to start handing down I'm a master goalkeeper coach with the United Soccer Coaches, advanced national goalkeeper. I'm going to work a camp or a course this year in Texas as, with that group. And then I'm a premier licensed guy with the USC. So I love teaching goalkeeping. It's my passion. And then at the armed forces level, and shout out to goalkeepers, we all think we're strikers. Well, I actually got to play striker at the armed forces level. Once again, being a Black Hawk pilot, versatility, right? So I found that with my expertise in the arena game and futsal, and with mini football, and mini football is a term, there is actually a federation for mini football. The World Cup is happening right now in Azerbaijan. Shout out to the U.S. team that's out there, mostly MASL 1 players. That is a literal category of football, mostly popularized right now by TST. I think TST has really caught fire, that 7-on-7, 6-on-6, 5-on-5 environment that I love so much. And so with Chaos, it was really me kind of saying, okay, with the tentacles of the octopus, let's have multiple guys kind of come in. So we have something we call Chaos Click, where we get together, and it's a lot of goalkeeper coaches that also want to keep their goalkeeping and striking hot, so it's a highly competitive pro arena environment, or pro futsal, or tight spaces, which is really my specialty, and that's what Chaos thrives off of. Right now we're training mostly at an indoor arena spot, but we have contracts working with a local complex in Austin that's very unique. We'll never train full field. We'll always emphasize smaller soccer situations and futsal, because that facility has a gym that we can use. Having designed a lot of goalkeeper gloves in the past, it's a passion of mine. I can send you some samples. I've done some wild stuff, not only with Glue Pro, with Aviata and a few others. It's just really a fun thing. With the new glove that we have, the MT Rex, which was actually graphically designed by the pro owner of the glove. So shout out to Michael Toth, who is a graphic designer and my starter for the MASL 3 team. Michael had a bit of a cup of tea in MLS in the old days, but a hell of a goalkeeper who actually designed his own glove, which is fascinating. So we have some early models of the MT Rex here. One of the things I want to stick to, Daniel, and I will fall on my sword for this, is that modern goalkeeper gloves are just too damn expensive. They're incredibly expensive. And kind of hearkening back to something Shaquille O'Neal did in the past, and I think Stephon Marbury did, which is try to provide a sneaker that met pro requirements, but was not blowing the doors off as far as like what you needed as a 11-year-old goalkeeper. You're buying a goalkeeper glove, and not to disparage companies that I love, the prices are just outrageous. And being a Gen Xer, growing up around goalkeepers like Peter Shilton, Bruce Grublar, guys like that. Bruce Grublar didn't even wear gloves for many of his seasons. Hand catching technique was really the primary focus. So those guys could make amazing saves in garden gloves, just any glove, regardless. So working with Glue Pro and working with my collaborators, we really said, what do you need in a goalkeeper glove? And that's a great look, that's affordable, comfort. As a goalkeeper coach, I like the fact that our gloves can easily kind of sheath over a watch, which you'd be surprised how much you have to look at your watch as a coach when you're coaching. And you either have to take your watch off, but I can do that training with those sheathed over my watch. And really the core of a goalkeeper glove, and I'm on my soapbox here, is the palm, is the latex that you catch with. And using kind of a hyla cut, which is kind of universal, and a really high quality palm versus all the other bells and whistles and radical designs and things of that nature, and punch zones and spines. We just want an outstanding palm for a young goalkeeper to be able to freely catch a ball. And I will stick to this. I will not go over $60 per glove. And for veterans, I'll even take a 15% discount off of that for 45. For anybody that can prove to me that they're a veteran or a first responder. And we'll leave it at that, $60, and that way you can have a strong glove rotation, a solid palm, and let's go ahead and get the training in versus the Rolls-Royce glove that's $180. Let's show you how to actually catch a soccer ball, how to actually block a soccer ball. And that way, your parents aren't dumping a ton of money into your gloves. They're dumping the money into what's important, which is the training, which is what we care about. And a final thing about my training, Daniel, having grown up in special operations, career military guy, Black Hawk pilot, this is not a flex. I don't want to, exercise is everything to me. And so on my Instagram and stuff like that, I post a workout. It's my old butt out there doing an intense, CrossFit style workout. That's not a flex. It's me showing that I want to stay fit for you. I want to stay fit for my players, and just kind of push people to get into a higher level of fitness because goalkeeping is incredibly demanding. It's practically a martial art in some ways, and your body needs to be strong. And so that's kind of the final bit of chaos in that. And I'm not saying that makes us special because the owner is this dork out there, doing workouts. It's to show that you have to stay lifelong fit, elite fit, if you want to keep going. And the beauty of goalkeeping, and I would also say striking, is that you can do that well into your 50s at a high level, and that's why I'm preaching the mini football style 7v7. It doesn't have to be this 11v11 schlep where you're just, killing yourself out there. You can still be quite the baller. I stepped in this year with the MASL 1, got a couple reps when the goalkeepers were hurt or injured or missing practice. And I felt like I could hang, and that was because I'm dedicated to fitness. And then lastly, fitness is also incredibly important. My mother is now going through the second stage of Parkinson's. And if you discuss, and my mom's a lifelong fitness person. My aunt was a triathlete, they come down from my grandfather's bloodline of athletes. Parkinson's, the first thing they'll tell you to do is get into elite shape. So I'm out there from my mom, bluntly, just, trying to inspire her. And of course, like any good mother, she likes every post I make, gives all the thumbs up. But, my mom's out there in her 70s, busting out 6 miles a day, to kind of conquer that stuff. And so I think that, if you tangle in the goalkeeping world, you need to be an athlete. You need to be and that's what chaos means: kick, athlete, organize, and save. Military acronyms, right? Keep it simple, stupid. So, yep. The athlete part is a big part to me. So I try to stay fit. I try to encourage others to stay hyper fit. And of course, my wife is a CrossFit, person. So that's our life. And that's really, chaos is tied into that heavily, I think.
It really is. Michael, I really appreciate your time. Thank you very much for joining me today. And look, once again, thank you for your service to our country and to all our military veterans, and continued success in your goalkeeping business for the gloves and everything else. I appreciate your time, and you have a very good day.
All right, Daniel, we'll get you a pair, man. Get you a pair soon.
Great. Thank you very much.
All right. Thank you.
And that, my friends, is Michael Josh Guidry. That is the owner of his goalkeeping business, Chaos Soccer. Great guy, absolutely fantastic guy, and a military veteran as well. So once again, to all our military veterans, thank you for what you've done for our country. And hopefully everyone will love his business and the thriving business of American soccer. My next guest, of course, he covers the Los Angeles Galaxy. You can watch his program, El Traffico TV, online. This is my friend, my good buddy over on the West Coast, who was my SB Nation colleague at the time, but I always love to have him on because he is the best. And he's got the best burger joints in LA that I know of. Mike Gray joining me right now. Mike, good afternoon. How are you, my friend?
Danny, man, it's been a while. I'm doing great. I just we need to you need to have more Michael on because speaking as a fellow goalkeeper, I identify with all that. I mean, if you if you don't take care of your body, you're gonna be limping when you get older. So yeah, man, you always have excellent guests on. Yet my buddy Favi Rinkel on in the past, and yeah, dude, looking. I always look forward to jumping on your pod and having a good chat. So yeah, man. How about you? How are you doing?
I'm doing all right. So far, so good. Everything's okay. As you can see, this is the brand new platform, StreamYard. So, it's nice, nice and cozy so far for me over here. But hopefully, it'll keep on going here. And Blog Talk Radio was good for when it was, and it was time to move on to the upgrade. And here's the upgrade.
Yeah, you're leveling up, buddy.
I try my best, Mike. Try my best. I really wanted you on before the whole situation happened. I couldn't get you on to talk about the 2024 MLS Cup final, but I'll still give you that opportunity. Great victory for the Galaxy. Got their goals early. Played strong defense in the second half. Basically, I mean, they just had to weather the storm. Up 2-1, winning the championship. But then after that, I mean, what's been going on with the Galaxy? I mean, we all knew about Puig, Ricky Puig, with his ACL injury that was going to knock him out for probably the entire season this year. But outside of that, what has been the problem?
Well, you knew the Galaxy was going to have some sort of championship hangover, right? Just not like, record breaking in every conceivable stat. So it hasn't worked out quite as you'd hope. I said on Twitter that I was going to share a really dumb analogy, but to me, it like makes a lot of sense. All right. Suppose you're going to plan a big asada, which is over on the West Coast. That's what we call like barbecue, right? You got your handmade tortillas, you got your onions, you got your cilantro, your salsa, rice and beans, chicharrones, beer for days. You've even hired entertainment, right? And you're gonna have this big party, and it's gonna be great. All that's left to do is to just go to the carniceria, which is Mexican meat market, and just pick out your protein of choice. But then you get there, and for whatever reason, let's just say that the building burned down, uh, and so all of a sudden you're left with you're trying to make tacos and you have no meat. And when I think of Ricky Pooch, no pooch, no party, my mind
Whoa, I think we lost Mike for a bit. Hopefully, he'll come back. But I can understand definitely what he's talking about. No party, no Puig. No Puig, no party. That's really the thing right there, folks. Hopefully, we'll get Mike back on real quick, and his connection can come back with us, and or he can fix his microphone. But obviously, we're having some issues here, but that's okay, Mike. Come jump right back in whenever you can, and we will be right here waiting for you. So, but yep, the LA Galaxy right now. I mean, for taking a look at the standings, which I don't have at the moment, of course, set up, but I can definitely take a quick look on my MLS app, and it's not good. It's not good for the Galaxy right now. They have not won a game at all. They have not won a game. Uh, 15 matches in, no wins, 4 draws, 11 losses, and it's just one of those things where, unfortunately, maybe this is the biggest hangover they've ever had with that record-setting victory season last year. And hopefully get Mike back on. It gets reconnected. So, but yeah, I mean, what can you do? What can you do? It's unfortunate. And we'll see what happens. Waiting for Mike to come back with us. And we're just trying to wait. Hopefully, he'll be back on with us very soon. So you can see, it's right there. And we'll see what the situation is with Mike. And we'd like to have him on. And we're just getting some information from Mike. Hopefully, I have. Oh, there he goes. Let's see if he can get back in here. All right, he's waiting. So we're just going to wait for Mike to come back on. And hopefully, because I would love to have him on the show. I always like to have Mike on the show. I'm trying to connect with him right now through social media. Yeah. If you got it, use it. You know, you got your phone, you got your internet, use it as much as you can. So we'll see what happens. And, once again, just love to have Mike on the show and to see what he does here covering the Galaxy. As we wait. And of course, let's not forget what happened at Red Bull Arena earlier this month, the Red Wedding Part 2. And that was actually the second time the New York Red Bulls put a 7-goal clean sheet hurting on their opposition, this time at Red Bull Arena. And of course, they scored 6, and the 7th was an own goal by Mickey Yamane. And, that's not good. That is definitely not good. That is definitely not good to see Mickey Yamane putting the ball into the back of his own net. And we'll just have to wait and see what happens with Mike as we await for him to come back on. Because I would love to talk to him about the Galaxy. And there he is. I think we might have him. Let's see if we can add him. See if we got him now. Nope, not yet. See here. Let's try that again. Can you hear me, Mike, or no? Nope, I guess we're still having some issues here with Mike at the moment. So we're just waiting for him to come back on to see if we can chat with us. Let's see here. Okay, let's see if I can get him back on here. And he is on stage right now. So, Mike, you there? I got you on. Let me just, let's try that again. Oh, there he is. I think we might have him. There he is. You there, Mike?
Hey, what's up?
Hey, there we go. Good man.
Jesus Christ, man. I was dying for a second.
Well, finally we can see each other. Now we know what we look like.
Right. My hair was not optimal, so I didn't really feel like doing the video at first, but here we are. So,
hey, listen, quick touch up. You got that rock star hair gel, I bet.
oh, bullshit. All right, where were we? Did you get everything I said?
Yep, I got everything you said until I think you cut off after your analogies. So, but I wanted to ask you anyway. No wins, 4 draws, 11 losses, and 15 matches.
Right.
And I mean, one of those losses, and I try not to rub it in, of course, but I have to tell you that had to be the worst result against the New York Red Bulls with the 7-goal clean sheet loss at Sports Illustrated Stadium. That had to be like the worst of the worst.
Yeah, I mean, that was the one. Vanny referred to it. There's a couple of games a year where the team just fucks up, and that was just a brain fart of a game. I mean, if you want to look at it from a historical perspective, the Galaxy actually lost 5-0 to the Metro Stars at the old Meadowlands the same year that they won their first title. So it's not completely unsurprising to me, but talking about the record, no wins, 4 points from 15 matches. Uh, the fans, they want blood, and they're looking to issue blame. I think what makes this situation so difficult, in a way, is look, as a fan, as a supporter, there's nothing worse than when your team is just garbage and you don't really have like a finger to point to, or to especially in the social media era of sports, the fans, they want to get involved, they want to be a part of the solution. And the issue is, going back to my analogy, if you're Vanny, how do you fire the cook? I mean, you might still have some ingredients to work with, like the tortillas and rice and beans and all that, but without the meat, or AKA without Ricky Puig, all of those ingredients are sort of a lesser, than they were before. I mean, think about Emeril Garces, for example. He was someone who, when Ricky Puig was orchestrating the attack, the Galaxy were very dominant possession-wise. But you would have situations where he had to do a lot of emergency defending, and then that's when his pace and his physicality really shone. And he looked like a $10 million defender, right?
Yep.
But then this year he's being without Ricky, with a much more sort of normal structured attack. He's in a position now where he needs to be poised. He needs to make the right decisions. He needs to make the right decisions. Split second. And what you're seeing is a very young, naive defender who can get pulled out easily. And teams are starting to they've scouted him. They know that he can get a bit too aggressive, and teams are taking advantage of that. They've talked about it openly in press conferences. And yeah, as far as the situation goes with the fans and assigning blame, like you know, the issue is that without Ricky Puig, uh, you, you have someone who's irreplaceable, right?
Oh yeah, absolutely.
And think about the fact that you have Ricky, and then you potentially have Marco Reus as a replacement, and then that's still nowhere near good enough. Because the fact of the matter is, again, I don't think the Galaxy, they were basically forced into having to sell a lot of their top offensive talents. Mark Delgado, Gaston Brugman, Dejan Joveljic, etc. And that created it was there obviously were going to be growing pains this year, but at least you had Ricky still.
Yeah.
And you know, you need a lot of things to go right to succeed in this league and to win a cup. And one of the things that you need is luck.
Yep.
Luck is not something that you can trade for GAM or for a bag of soccer balls or what have you. And the Galaxy have had zero luck this year. And you look at Will Kuntz, the GM, getting rid of a lot of these guys is going to be painful, but at least you're going to still have Ricky, right? Well, now you lose Ricky. And then it's like, at that point, what do? You're kind of fucked, aren't you? And
Yep.
that's been the story of the 2025 LA Galaxy. And yeah, I think that, again, if you want my honest opinion, I think the fans have been a little hard on Vanny. Uh, the whole spiel with him was that he doesn't adjust his attack, and he's got to make do with what he has. Well, he didn't even have Joseph Paintsville and Gabriel Peck consistently available. That's
Exactly.
only in the past 4 or 5 games have the Galaxy had their full attack, and then what you've seen is gradual improvement from the team. Past 3 games, they have actually conceded possession, which is unheard of for Greg Vanny's side. However, in all 3 games, they've scored the first goal. And then you think about that Kansas City game where they didn't even give up a shot on goal, and somehow they still fucking lost. This team is this team's feeling very cursed. But I think that if you look at the totality of everything, Vanny might deserve some blame. Kuntz might deserve some blame. The players might deserve some blame, especially for the individual mistakes. But it all just points back to the Ricky Puig injury, and for me, it's just a bad situation. But part of the issue is you have these crazy individual mistakes. Looks like the Galaxy almost find new ways to lose every week. And I'm gonna put my phone down for a second because my arm's tired.
Sure.
Yeah, and it's very interesting because people are trying to speculate, like, how can the Galaxy cut out these individual mistakes? Well, speaking just as a reporter, and as a player, it's kind of dangerous. Well, not dangerous, but I don't like the armchair quarterback situations.
Oh, I know what you're talking about. Absolutely.
And when you look at Vanny's team and you look at those group of players, that's a high character squad you got. I mean, from Maya Yoshida, John McCarthy, you have plenty of leaders. You have plenty of proven, hard men. You have, you know, can you pick one player in the Galaxy and you can say, well, that guy's a loafer, or this guy's indisciplined, or he doesn't he's not taking practice or games seriously. These Diego Fagundes is another guy. Like, these are high character guys, and so for me, it's a little. I've heard, maybe these guys need some tough love. I mean, Roos, to be fair, Roos brought up that point like maybe a month ago or so. And yeah, maybe the players do need to sort of kick their asses a little bit. But I also think that, you don't need to make drastic changes. I mean, can you imagine Greg Vanny going all like Fabio Capello style on the players? No social media, no phones. You only get to eat vegan smoothies until you win. that might, that might have it might have a net negative effect on the team. So, yeah, it's just a situation, and it sucks. But hopefully, you know, we'll see what happens this week. If the Galaxy fail to win either tonight versus San Jose or over the weekend versus RSL, I think you can put I think the season's kind of done.
Yeah.
And then from that point of view, or going from there, that's when you can start to prepare for 2026. You can maybe play some players that, Elijah Widener's a good example of a guy that needs playing time. Lucas Sanabria needs playing time. Mikovic, the goalkeeper, needs playing time. Although, he's another guy who got awful lot of scrutiny, which is fair. I mean, you're replacing a MLS Cup winning goalkeeper who happened to be the MVP in 2002 for LAFC. So I get it, but at some point, that's another thing. If you want to win MLS, you have to develop players. They don't all just show up and fucking 100% ready to go. And I can use Dejan Joveljic as an example, going all the way back to Omar Gonzalez, the center back. Like, the Galaxy needs to develop players, and that can be a lot easier when you've got when you kind of know that the season's done. And then also Greg Vanny's extension makes it a lot easier for him to make those type of changes as well. So people are complaining about the timing, but I think it's for the club. I think that, they're in a good spot, as bad as things are right now.
No, I agree with you absolutely. I mean, look, this is unfortunate that it happened, and I mean, I think the Ricky Puth, excuse me, the
No.
Ricky
You got the accent right. It's Barcelona. Ricky Puth.
Puth. Yeah, no, I mean, I agree with you. I mean, he's the cog that's been missing this entire season, and when he gets back and he gets healthy and ready to go, probably more for 2026 than this year, they'll be a lot better for next season. That's absolutely true, and hopefully, the Galaxy will be a lot better next year. Right now, unfortunately, it's got to chalk it to bad luck, and that's just it. Bad luck. I agree with you. I think everyone's been a little too hard on Vanny. They've been a little too hard on the club. They've been hard on Kuntz, and they're just doing as much as they can to try and get a win at least. And we'll just see what they do for next season. But look, you never know if Puig can come back and early enough that maybe he might salvage the season. We'll see what happens. But until then, he's got grin and bear it, unfortunately, Mike. That's the problem.
Well, and also I think people are underestimating how much of a competitive element Ricky added to the field, not just
Hmm.
during match days, but in training. I mean, I say this every once in a while. I mean it with 100%. It's a compliment where I'm like, he's a competitive little shit. Like, can you imagine making a bad pass in training next to him? He's gonna like explode on you, right? I mean, in a good
Hmm.
way, but I mean, they've even said the past. Him, Paintsell, and Peck, they get angry at each other, and that's what you need. I'm, I'm not, I'm not an advocate of like players getting into fist fights like in training every few weeks or whatever. But it's important that the players hold themselves accountable. Otherwise, you get a little bit what we were seeing in Atlanta, where Ronnie Dyla has to call out his players for being soft because they're playing soft. I haven't seen that from the Galaxy. I've seen a lack of concentration,
Absolutely
but
not.
yeah,
Nope, absolutely not. No, they've been busting their butts. I mean, look, the game against the Red Bulls, obviously that was like the biggest low point of their season. But after that, they battled. They tried hard. They didn't get the 3 points, but you can definitely say that they battled, and they have been battling ever since. So you know that there's no loss of confidence on the Galaxy at all.
well, maybe a little, but maybe a little, but I mean, it is starting to wear on the players because it's absolutely ridiculous. Bruce Arena, he was talking about how the Galaxy are due. Same with Sarakan, he had similar words, and yeah, I'm not really thinking about the first win because I mean, like, I don't know, maybe it's just me. No, we'll say it's just me, but like, I don't put a lot of value in records. I think that for the fans, it's important that get that first win to at least play attractive soccer, so they look forward to going to the stadium. But as far as wins, losses, at this point, just get the first win, and then I still don't think the Galaxy are out, which sounds ridiculous, but you know the Galaxy are only 2 points behind Montreal in the standings. So if they were to pull off a win tonight and then maybe take that momentum and turn it into another 3 points versus RSL, then you're back to having like slim hopes. But some hopes is better than nothing. And yeah, I think it's time that the team just gives fans something to be happy about.
Yep, absolutely. Mike, I appreciate your time as always. Thanks again for hopping on. I really do appreciate your time, and hope to have you back on again soon to talk more about the Galaxy and the season. Hopefully, they will get that first win of the season. So break the ice. That's all you can do, and not so much break the ice, but bite the bagel and get rid of that zero.
Like the bagel. I like that. No,
Thank you.
sorry for the internet snafu. I don't know what happened, man.
No
Was it
worries.
was it the soccer gods just fucking with us or what?
I think so. I
All
think
right,
so. They want to have a laugh, man. They want to
don't
give
do
you a
that
laugh.
again. What the hell, Zlatan?
You're gonna call him all the way from Milan?
Well, he might not be there much longer the way things are going with those firings and the protests. So we'll see what happens.
We'll see what happens. You never know. He might come back crawling. We'll see what happens at the Galaxy. All right, Mike. Thanks again. I'll talk to you soon. Go to El Trafico TV to read and watch Mike's shows on his pods. Thanks again, Mike. I'll talk to you again soon. I appreciate you, man.
Later, buddy.
Later. Once again, Mike Gray joined us here on the 40 Scenes Fire American Soccer Show. A little bit of a hiccup, unfortunately, with the connection, but Mike's a great guy. I respect him a lot. He's covered the Galaxy for such a very, very long time, different outlets. Like I said, we were together at SB Nation. He was covering the Galaxy there. I was covering the New York Red Bulls myself. I think it was LAG Confidential for him. And for me, it was Once Metro. And unfortunately, SB Nation has gotten rid of their MLS division. Majority of their soccer writing, I would think. I know they still do the Mexican national team, and I think they still do the U.S. men's national team and the women's national team. So that's all they do left in soccer. MLS wise, I think it's all gone. So really a shame, but what are you going to do? It's under Barstool. So anyway, before we go to the Red Bulls, I was going to do this for my intro monologue, but because of uh, the recorded interview I had with Michael Josh Guidry, I pushed it back to here because I wanted to talk about this, and that is the Christian Pulisic situation. And you know, I've watched many other podcasts involving whether it would be tactical manager, Eric Winalda, former U.S. men's national team striker, on his Unleashed show. I've also watched with Tim Howard and Landon Donovan on their Unfiltered Soccer podcast. And, they've had their thoughts, they've had their opinions. And, look, I have mine, and I'll get to that in just a second. Still recovering from the cold, obviously, that I suffered, but, trying to keep my voice healthy and active here. But I want to talk about Christian Pulisic for a second here. And while we have great players who have played for our national team, once again, like Eric Winalda, who I completely respect. I respect him. I respect his career. I respect him as a great head coach in the club game. I respect him for what he's done, whether it be for the national team, whether in MLS, in Europe. And, having that TV background that he has, Landon Donovan now, TV background on Fox Sports, Tim Howard on NBC Sports coverage of the English Premier League. There's different opinions from all over the internet, and obviously my opinion. No one's going to shy away from my opinion and how I feel. That's why you see Feuerstein's Fire, because I have the passion for this game. And I love this game, and I want this game to be successful in our country, in the United States. So, when I found out Christian Pulisic did not want to be on the Gold Cup roster this summer, I was shocked to hear that. And while maybe I would have been angry about it, I kind of held back a little bit. I just said to myself, wait and listen to any further news. Obviously, Doug McIntyre broke that news from Fox Sports. Doug McIntyre does a great job covering the sport. And I know Dougie personally, so he's been a great guy to whenever he's been able to come on my show. Now it's a little harder probably because he is writing for Fox Sports, covering soccer. But, I want to digest the different points of view from anyone and everyone. And that also included Hercules Gomez of Football Americas on ESPN FC, online ESPN Plus. And first things first, mental health is always a big thing for me because I understand mental health problems. And I can say where my mental health has not been an extreme level, but I can definitely go there with my recent situations. The death of my father through Parkinson's, which really, really, it killed me how he died of Parkinson's and how I couldn't help him. As he helped me so many times, I couldn't help him, and I felt helpless. And just losing him that way really hurt me very much, and it really brought me down mentally. Also, as you can see I'm not living in New York City anymore, northern New Jersey anymore. I'm living in South Florida now. And, you know, forced out due to the price is rising, and it's not just the cost of what you buy at the supermarket, but, it's the cost of the rent money that you have to pay for your abode. Now, I'm down here in South Florida with my wife, and we've taken over my grandmother's apartment, so that's a pretty good thing. But I miss not being up there. I miss not being up in New York and New Jersey. But look, I'm finally getting through that. But the mental aspect of me is not the level of a professional player, obviously. And so I can't compare what I went through to what Landon Donovan went through at that time, what Christian Pulisic is going through right now, what some of these professional players are going through right now. So I cannot compare my situation to their situation. I can't. But while I understand he needs a break, Christian Pulisic, and I understand that this game in Europe is taxing with the amount of matches that you have to play, not just a league season, a league cup season, um, an FA Cup season, or at least, the Coppa Italia matches that you got to play in Italy every year. AC Milan always battles in the UEFA Champions League. So, and then of course the international break comes in, and he's coming on a plane, flying across the Atlantic to play for the U.S. men's national team in friendlies. And so basically this situation that we are in right now, and excuse me, not just Gold Cups, but also the Copa America that we had last summer, where they just completely fell apart mentally. And so I kind of understand where Pulisic is coming from. And I do understand where Eric Winalda is coming from, where he says, back off, let him go, but I also understand where Tim Howard came from on his Unfiltered Soccer podcast with Landon Donovan. This Gold Cup tournament that's coming up very soon, next month, after World Cup qualifying continues in June for 4 of the 6 confederations, we're not going to have the full complement roster because of either A, injuries, B, certain players playing for certain clubs involved in the FIFA Club World Cup, like Weston McKennie, like Tim Weah at Juventus. And now we have players who just want to take a break or don't want to be a part of it in the Gold Cup. And while, that's fine, someone in MLS will take their positions for this summer's Gold Cup. Once again, we're not going to see the complementary of players who is going to make this World Cup roster. And they're not playing in this Gold Cup because this is the last window of importance to see who you have out there. Who can go out there and show that what they can do in the Gold Cup, they'll do it in the World Cup. I mean, if they can turn it on, great. Great. Thank God you've done it. Wonderful. I mean, you could have gotten a break during the friendlies in September, October, and November. But no. No, you want the summer off. All right. But what Christian Pulisic needs to understand is this, is that whether he likes it or not, he is the face of the national team. After Landon Donovan was out, who was the next face of the national team? Who? Christian Pulisic. And whether he likes it or not, whether he doesn't want to be the captain of the national team or he does, everyone is going to be looking toward him. He did a commercial for Volkswagen talking about American soccer. And I'm sorry, I'm sorry. He has to understand. He is a big name. He is the flag bearer. He's going to take it with him on the flagpole, carry it on the pitch, wearing red, white, and blue, representing us, representing the sport of this country. And the hopes of winning that golden trophy, that little golden trophy on our soil, on Canadian soil, and on Mexican soil next summer. I want him to be right upstairs. I really do. But I'm sorry. You just got to face the music. Now, am I sympathetic? Yeah, of course I am. But at the same time, you cannot come out of the blue and just say, I don't want to play this summer. Even though I understand why you're doing it. But time is running out. The windows are getting shorter, shorter, and shorter. And once again, with some of the great things that U.S. Soccer has done from up to this point, and they still need to get our support. It hurts when they still find ways to muck it up. And we had to, they should have not rehired Greg Berhalter at this cycle. Should not have. But they did. And went through 2.5 years of crap. They hired Mauricio Pochettino. And let me just say this. The Federation once again gets involved for no reason. And they should let their head coach of the men's national team select the players. U.S. Soccer, once again, cannot get out of their own way. And until they do, everything will be much better. I'm not saying they don't care. I'm just saying they're going about it the wrong way. And now, here we are. Here we are. We have a problem once again. If we're going to be a serious footballing nation, soccer nation, we got to stop messing around like this. We got to stop messing around, because if we stop messing around for once, things can flow better. But until then, we're stuck in mediocrity. It's just ridiculous. Got to end. It's got to end. Once that ends, soccer wars end, and everything is the way it should be. Period. And that's enough of that. I was going to do it at the beginning of the show, but obviously certain things were out of my control. But that's where we are right now. And now we got ourselves some young players that will probably make themselves feel like maybe they're going to probably muscle in on this World Cup roster for next summer. Because right now, I think there's a couple of players that are probably going to do so, and they deserve it. But we'll wait and see what happens. And now it's time to talk about the New York Red Bulls and their big win on the weekend at DC United over in Audi Field. Here we go. A 2-0 victory by the New York Red Bulls. Big goals from Cameron Harper and Mohamed Sofo. Even though it should have been more than 2-0, they've been. I did not mind the way they played against DC United because obviously they wanted to get the victory. They wanted to win. They should have had at least 3 goals, 4 goals, 5 goals. It didn't happen. But I can understand maybe they're a little bit reserved. Thought maybe they were trying their best not to lose this game. They did have great attacking chances. Luis Barraza made some solid saves. The back line of DC made some strong stops. But at the end of the day, Red Bulls got their goals. 2-0. Cameron Harper, great passing play. First from Wiki Carmona from the far side to the middle of the pitch to Emil Forsberg. And then he went down to the near side, saw Cameron Harper make a run. He attacked the area. And then with a hard diagonal shot, beats Luis Barraza to the inside the far post to make it 1-0. Had their chances to make it 2-0 until they finally did in second half stoppage time. Mohamed Sofo came in, made a big shot, low smasher, beats Barraza to the inside of the far post, diagonal. First time he scored consecutive matches, Mohamed Sofo, from the Open Cup match on Wednesday against Dallas to the league match this past Saturday. And now tonight, this coming Wednesday, the New York Red Bulls are hosting Charlotte FC at Sports Illustrated Stadium, 7:30 p.m. Eastern Time on MLS Season Pass through Apple TV. So there you have it. Big win for the Red Bulls. They finally get a win on the road after going 0-2-5. Now they're 1-2-5, and hopefully they can get some more wins on the road after these last 2 games at home at Sports Illustrated Stadium. Charlotte FC this Wednesday night, and then this upcoming weekend on Saturday, home to Atlanta United, all on MLS Season Pass through Apple TV. But this is the end of this afternoon show. I want to thank my guests today. I want to thank Michael Josh Guidry, and I also want to thank Mike Gray. My name is Daniel Feuerstein. Thank you very much for watching me this afternoon. I hope all of you enjoyed it. And for all you Red Bull supporters out there, join me later online on X as I'll be tweeting this match for you. But for now, thank you for joining me today. And as always, please enjoy your football. Thank you. Have a good afternoon. Take care. So long and bye-bye for now. Have a good day, everybody.